straight into our Sounders, and man, it's not getting easier. It's not getting easier for these guys. Multitude of ways, a multitude of ways, whether that be with the injuries that they're dealing with or with the results that have been coming in. So we go here over to March 23rd, a road game at the San Jose Earthquakes, a 2-3 loss. Our player of the match forward, Raul Ruidiaz. Raul, an 8.2 match rating, 1 goal, 79% passing, 1 chance created, and 4 shots on target. With that goal, Raul moves into the he is the sole owner of the top spot in Sounders all-time leading goal scoring across all competitions in the MLS era. So very nice for Raul. He had tied it last week with the Panenka penalty against Colorado. He does it again this week with the Panenka penalty, this time against San Jose. This was a unique game. It was a unique game. Seattle we'll get to the injury report in a minute, but Seattle had a few midfielders out due to injury, so it was a very young midfield. Christian Roldan starting on the left, Denny Leyva, Soda Kitahara making his MLS debut, mind you. I believe it might have been his first start, actually, not MLS debut. And then Dylan Tevis was on the right. Shout out my guy Dylan. Continuing in that 4-4-2 still, Stefan Fry made his season appearance. And, I mean, it was tough. It was tough from the jump. The Earthquakes, right before half, got 2 goals somewhat immediately in the 42nd and the 43rd minute. Dylan Tevis was shown a yellow card in the 52nd. Jackson Reagan saw a yellow card in the 65th. And then, Raul Ruidiaz scores the penalty in the 72nd minute. And it's very exciting. And okay, you're kind of pulling back into it. Danny Musovski, as a substitute for Dylan Tevis, comes on and scores a header in the 81st minute to tie us up. You're like, all right, they've come back from that 2-goal deficit. 2-goal deficit's always talked about it from at least coaches that I had as the easiest deficit to come back from in soccer. And then Jeremy Ibobise scores a minute later to give the Earthquakes a lead that they never have to look back from. So very frustrating match to look at, just considering, where Seattle is in the standings, the results that they've already had. You had possessions, but obviously that doesn't always tell the story. San Jose did have the better expected goals. They had less shots, but more shots on target and more big chances. So, the offense a little bit going here with the Sounders, but not nearly as much as they wanted. And the defense, for the first time, it feels like this year, really let them down. We go straight into the injury report here for this match. And as I mentioned, you're missing a few midfielders already on top of a number of important guys that have been out since the season began. Midfielder Josh Atencio, with that red card that he earned last week, was out for this week. He'll be back to go next week. Defender Reed Baker-Whiting is still dealing with a hamstring injury. Same with midfielder Pedro de la Vega. João Paulo in the midfield still dealing with that hip injury. Doesn't appear to be really that close to returning. Forward Bradilio Rodriguez is also dealing with a hamstring injury. And midfielder Obed Vargas appeared to pick up he's listed in the injury report as picking up a head injury in training, so that's never a good thing to hear. And then we do have a few questionable players. Forward Leo Chu was supposed to be good to go for this match before we got this injury report a day before the match, and he was questionable with a knee injury. And then midfielder Albert Rusnak was questionable with an ankle injury. He did sub into this match in the second half, though. So, you start to, at least because I generally have tried to be optimistic about it. We've seen the injury report week in and week out with the Sounders team, and I say, hey, they're dealing with a lot. You're missing arguably some of your best players in João Paulo. Pedro de la Vega has shown great flashes when he's healthy. Now he's out. You finally get Stefan Fry back. Certainly not the match I'm sure he wanted or the team wanted. I don't blame all of those goals on him. Albert Rusnak dealing with some injuries throughout the season as well. He hasn't been fully healthy throughout these weeks, and multiple of these players, a number of these players, contribute on a starting basis with Atencio. Obviously, De La Vega, Reed Baker-Whiting provides some great play off of the bench. João Paulo, probably the most important player. Obed Vargas has consistently started. Leo Chu has consistently started. So you're seeing a lot of these guys that are typically in the lineup for Seattle being held out, and you're looking at some of the depth guys having to come in. It's very frustrating, and I generally try to be the optimist, but with generally how poorly regarded San Jose are, losing to them and really just not having a win yet. Your offense has been pretty stagnant. I am starting to wonder now. I'm letting it happen to me now. When are the changes coming? If this continues, when are the changes coming? If they're able to snap out of it after this week somehow, thankfully, and get going, then I'm like, all right, they really were just kind of tripping and falling flat on their face out of the gate. But if this continues, then you start to wonder about change and what might actually help turn this ship around. So we look ahead to next week as the Sounders sit at a 0-win, 2-loss, 2-draw record, good for only 2 standing points. They are bottom in the Western Conference right now, second to last in all of MLS in terms of points. Their next match is on the road March 30th at the LA Galaxy. That is a 7:30 p.m. start. Every time that the Sounders play the Galaxy, it's always generally pretty interesting. Even when, the Galaxy haven't been that great, we look at this. It's funny to look at the injury reports for these teams. The Galaxy do sit currently at second in the Western Conference in points with 9 total points across 5 matches played so far, behind only Minnesota, who have 10 points. So it's not going to be an easy test if Seattle wants to turn the ship around this upcoming week on the road. They're going to need to kind of dig deep here. Unless they're getting more than a few of these guys back from injury, they're going to need to dig deep, look themselves in the mirror, and figure some things out.